Hey guys, welcome into the Puggle Reborn channel. We are checking out the latest devlog 133 City States Part 3. All my timestamps are down below in the description. Let's dive right on in. Last week we learned about the gunpowder weapons in conclusion of our devlog series exploring the southern city states. We take a closer look at the remaining troop types that make use of these weapons. Onwards. Gunners. Armies of the city-states train men in the use of handgun. That's what I'm going to call it, at least. A metal barrel with a long wooden handle that uses gunpowder to propel shrapnel in a cone. Below you see gunners armed with a handgun. Its visuals have been revised since last week to make more readily apparent that it is unreliable early firearm and not some kind of blunderbuss. Yes, this model is different. If you check out both models, they have done some visual changes. We'll go over that in a bit. Because their weapons cover a cone, gunners excel against tightly packed enemy formations. But because their weapon also has a very limited range or effective range, they often have to position themselves right behind their own front lines, leaving them vulnerable to polearms and firearms themselves. The city-states do not make use of traditional ranged weapons like bows and crossbows, but desert raiders, essentially the southern equivalent of brigands, make use of composite bows. Remember that? As you can see at the top here, I've kind of looked up some things with advantages and disadvantages over northern bows. Very cool. Now the engineers. Sneak peek. There's your cannon. Engineers. Malnutrition slaves toil in the fields and quarries beneath the city of gold domes that reflect the glory of the Gilder. I think that's how you say it, Gilder. It's a city of architectural marvels made possible by the application of mathematics and engineering. These sciences are taught in several colleges between city-states, and their their graduates, make for sought-after engineers. They advise intricate water pumps and fountains. Good Lord, I'm not getting that right. That create a private oasis in the garden of wealthy citizens and produce mechanical toys that makes eyes go wide. But where a child sees but a toy, a man with ambition sees what can become a weapon. And so it is that the engineers of the city-states also devise terrible weapons of war, and that they operate them on the battlefield to rain down destruction on the enemies of men with ambition. Very cool. As you face, I don't know what's going on, guys. I'm just like reading all kinds of stuff here. Alright, as you face engineers in battle, they don't pose much of a threat by themselves. In fact, they try to stay as far away from the front line as possible. Their role is not to engage the enemy in direct combat, but to operate with technical marvel that is the mortar. A bronze-cast muzzle-loaded piece of artillery, the mortar is available to fire every other round as long as it operated by at least one engineer next to it. That's very interesting. The mortar has enough range to cover the whole battlefield, and it's entirely immobile during combat. It fires explosive shells that cover a large area of effect, and it's highly inaccurate. The howling sound of incoming mortar shells has as much psychological impact on the combatants as it has an explosive impact, or perhaps even more so. Characters in the blast zone lose morale and receive a new shell shock status effect that lowers their efficiency in combat, but receive only moderate physical damage. Luckily, because of the mortar is heavy, relatively immobile, and hard to operate, it's an uncommon weapon used only with large armies, and one that you'll most likely face as part of the new Holy War late game crisis. Whew, alright. Besides all this jibber jabber right here I was throwing out at you, let's start with the gunners. So really this is the big thing. Let's kind of look at the guns. Obviously they just wanted to reassure everybody that, hey, you know, these are going to be like the mid-tier to late-tier soldiers that are going to be carrying them, on top of not wanting to use this early game because it just doesn't do enough damage. And it has a scaling, simply put, it has a scaling that's very similar to the Legends mod. In the Legends mod, I'm doing one right now called the Greater Malice, and I'm not trying to get you guys to watch that. That's on your own doing. But the point is that when you use like magic, there's a wizard, for instance, and his damage scales based on initiative. And there's also, you can be an actual fighter and use your fist. You can actually choke people out, and that also is dealt with initiative. Now, in the base game, damage is scaled on the fencing sword based on what? Initiative. There you go. So the thought with this is the gun is scaling off of your range skill. Why? Because it's not a blunderbuss where everybody just simply gets hit for some damage. Blunderbuss, in essence, do not have a lot of skill behind it. I'm sure somebody way back when could shoot that thing and get the most out of it, whereas most people would just point and shoot, causing the abrupt damage that it does. So this is truly a skilled weapon that you can only use late game, and I'm curious to see how effective it is because of the cone range and not being that far. Things that it'll be effective against, we'll have to see. I don't know what type of damage it's actually going to produce. I keep thinking like zombies will be a good one to use it against, or I don't know, even just a horde of whatever, wolves, dire wolves, I don't know, anything that's really overwhelming. This thing is going to be very powerful in using. And so the other thing I want to get into is the actual look of the gun. You can see the cannon, of course, just how this is all metal, right? So let's go down here, because this is one thing I had to see as soon as I read that. You can see that this is a half cannon sitting on wood. What does that look like? A blunderbuss. That's what they're trying to relay to us, that it's just not a blunderbuss. And being a handgun, the only part that you see on the shaft here is going to be right there. That'll probably be where the trigger is, of course. And now look at how they revised it. Big difference. So I want to thank the devs for that. That's very cool, and it does help, because in my last video I did say it really does look like a blunderbuss. But if it is a blunderbuss, it's a it's probably the smartest blunderbuss that's ever been made, right? Finally, we get into the new composite bow. Now, I grew up with a bow. I don't know a lot about bows, though. I don't know the big difference and stuff. If I tried to look and see, and it does look like an Arabic type of bow when you start getting into it. Here's just how it's looking. I looked into what exactly makes a composite bow and what it's made of here. Just the little things that you can ask about it. But ultimately, it just fits the style. One thing I'm curious about is it... I feel like this thing's going to be more wildly inaccurate for distance, but you're going to have better... Oh, man. I don't know. Anybody who is knowledgeable in composite bows, let me know. But what it's saying right here is that the brigands, essentially, the desert raiders that are considered like brigands, they're just the southern raiders, right? Make use of composite bows with advantages and disadvantages over northern bows. So here's my thought. I think based on these bows, it'll probably be way more accurate closer and less accurate in distance. If it's flip-flopped where it's the other way around, I'm thinking of a longbow otherwise, and I don't think these are considered like longbows. So that's my prediction when we get to that part, but that is going to be in the weapons blog. I've got to imagine it's going to be next week. All right, so the next part, engineers. Engineers, this, thank you. Thank you for this. I am very excited to see this in action, and for several reasons. Number one, it's not overpowered. I don't believe it's overpowered. It's simply stating here that when it shoots, it's every other turn. So there's got to be a turn where they're loading it up and it's in the air. Shoots up. You can hear it clearly. And you're going to have an idea of where it's going to land. Now, when it lands, it's not like a big boulder that's just hitting the ground and devastating everything. But it is devastating in the way of losing morale, being shell-shocked, okay? And then it says, receive only moderate physical damage. Moderate physical damage. When I see that, I think of, I see like a raider hitting you with an axe. It can suck, but it's not the end of the world if you're built for it. So once again, that also does put in, you know, how well is it? It's considered a range attack, so you can dodge it, but you still get hit with that shell shock status, and of course some morale loss. So it's going to be more focused, I feel like, on soldiers that somehow I so badly, and I hope the devs are listening to this, because I really want other stuff to matter in this game than just having insane amounts of armor. Because when I see this, I'm thinking that ultra late game, you're going to face like 3 or 4 of these things. And that may seem like crazy, but seriously guys, like when you get ultra late, the game keeps scaling, of course. It tries scaling to you. Not right with you. You can get ahead of it. But my point is like everything that you look at in terms of your late game, which is beating the wars, beating the crisis, I mean, it's like it's about armor, right? We have our brothers that have the most armor, and eventually nimble brothers just kind of slide off the edge of the earth, and it just sucks because we want more diversity. I want to be able to go into late game with a different idea than we need the best armor. What is the best way to be, right, in terms of just playing this game, being ultra late and most efficient, right? Like, I think one thing that's nice about like shell shocked and getting burned and all these other things, it puts more weight on the resilience perk, so that I'm happy about. There's going to be other perks that are affected here, and very, you know, this cannon to me does not just stick out in terms of a cannon. It sticks out in the way of what does it affect in the game? How does it affect your ultra late game or your late game, as it talks about with this new crisis, the Holy War crisis? How does this affect your gameplay? And I hope that there is more. And if you guys are listening, devs, because I feel like you do, I feel like you have been listening to the community. I feel like you do watch these videos. Please, in terms of getting this game to the next level, we need more perks. We need more diversity and some reworking of the perks, because go to the Discord. There's a Discord that talks about all the perks and how they stand. Implement those. Help us get a different flavor in terms of how the perk system can be bigger and broader for this type of combat. I'm very excited about the combat. I'm excited about the cannon. I think it's an amazing work. The composite bow is amazing work. This new gun, awesome. I love that there's like engineering. It's heavily taught. You heavily talk about the engineering and the mathematics, and let's see here. There's something else here, like water pumps, fountains, private oasis for the, clearly they're smart. You can hear the baby in the background. But I don't want to ask too much. I'm just asking for a little more balancing in terms of what this all can affect late game, ultra late game. Because I think the real hardcore fans don't just go for late game crisis. And if you do just go for late game crisis, good for you. I think that's awesome too. So, alright. Besides that, the only other thing I want to say is the Holy War. Very excited about this. I can't wait to see what that entails. It's going to be just, I can imagine it's just going to be city-states going wild. City-states could be, I hold one major house and this other person holds 2, and there could be multiple. I'm willing to bet that there's going to be 6 different city-states when you play the game. And I can just see this crazy war, but I'm curious as to what that means for the North. Is there going to be like the North is like, the whole North has to band together? It's going to be the 3 houses fighting the South because there's such an uprising of armies that are coming out of the woodworks to, I don't even know, that's going to be so cool. I'm very excited to hear more about this Holy War. I'm sure that's going to come up in the coming weeks. So yeah, that is going to pretty much do it, guys, with the devblog 133. Thanks a lot for coming out to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!